All right, so wonderful. The quiet has set in. The children have gone to create mayhem next door, and it's just us and Jesus, which is a wonderful relief, isn't it? I am pretty excited by this little mini-series that we're going to walk through. And I want you, Jack, you can throw up the intro slide. We want to spend time about the art of creating a future. And explore what that means. Summer's always weird, man. You always got it between a third and a half of the church away somewhere. And in the 30 years I've been in this country, I've never quite gotten used to it, but I suppose I'm in the suck-it-up phase. But rather than just kind of tick along during the summer, and you'll see why in just a moment, we are focusing in on this beautiful idea. Now, the art of creating a future is not my language, although I really liked it, so I fully swallowed and borrowed it from Erwin McManus, from Mosaic. In fact, Jonah sent me a podcast that Erwin did, and basically their church, which has been in LA, very influential community, very creative community, have been in a central space for a long time, and then the lease was not renewed. I don't know the story about that, so that's secondary to it. But in the podcast, he said something that I really wished I'd said first. And in it, he said, we don't want to remain where God was. And I loved that. I thought, that is a phrase worth remembering and repeating often. Now, the very notion of that, obviously, is the assumption that God is on the move. That means that God isn't a stationary, static entity, that this is a personal, intimate God who communicates with us and takes us on a journey. We have a story, as it is true biologically. I become like one of these little, my grandson who is 3 months, who is in a 9-month onesie, will tell you that God takes us on a journey from childhood into when we're in the twilight of our twilight years and we act like children again. It's kind of this circle of life. And there's no stationary essence in anything that we do, not mentally, emotionally, and certainly not spiritually. So our lives spiritually are not made of a series of one-off moments. It's this incredible journey that God takes us through. Summers, if you wish, whereby we have high points and times of great ecstasy and joy and celebration, and then deep low points. And it's in the low points where God does so much wonderful work in us. I said to the community, I preached at a church plant in Carlsbad this morning, and I said, God isn't in the slightest bit concerned with your and my happiness. And the place went deathly quiet. Like, you got to be kidding me, Chris. Surely it's number one on God's agenda. My happiness is of paramount importance. I don't think God thinks about it for 1 millisecond. In fact, if you Google happiness, if you look at it in the scriptures, it's hardly there. Because our culture has got us to believe that living our dreams and living it with happiness is the ultimate human experience, when in fact neither of those two words occur at all in the scriptures, my dreams and my happiness. It actually is all about the great journey of God, where we partner with God from the point of salvation, and we have this incredible adventure with highs and lows and doubts and uncertainties, and strengths and boldness and courage and radicalism. It's all part of this great journey. So I love when he says we don't want to remain where God was. He goes on to say that God, let me just put my glasses on so I can read it. He says it builds faith when God tells us to remember. It builds faith when God tells us to remember. Isaiah 46:9, remember the former things. Oh, it's a good thing. We had such a sweet moment when Nas was out from Australia, our eldest daughter, and I found some old discs of videos that we took of our kids when they were little bitty things, and watching my grandkids who were running around here causing mayhem earlier on, watching them mesmerized, seeing their mom their age. And I could see in particular little Delta's eyes, she could not connect that her mom was also 4 years old once. It just seemed this random thing. But it's actually, McManus says, it builds faith when God tells us to remember the former things, those of long ago. I am God, and there is no other. I am God, and there is none like me. So what is our story? Well, we started in our home in July 2017. Meryl and I were the quintessential reluctant planters. We'd been through this many times before. We'd helped many people do it, never expecting at my age of 57 to do it one more time. And the 7 places we've stayed to date, each have been so pivotal and so exciting for us. In our home, we built community, and we had fun doing that together. At Skyver, which was an ad agency owned by an unbeliever who sold cannabis. He had his own marijuana company. So Tyler had to go in every week. He reassured us that he simply packed it away, although worship did have high points that were rather extraordinary on occasions. I'm just saying that's what happened. There was worship, and it was the first time we kind of stepped into a public place, an ad agency over on the west side. And then we got kicked out of there because the building was owned by a Mormon who did not want us there. And so again, we were told on the Wednesday, by Friday, Common Thread Collective in Santa Ana, the guy said, well, why don't you come here? And so this was a moment of great entrepreneurial opportunity. We started in the morning. In fact, I was chuckling. My love, do you remember the Sunday morning we decided to do a pajama breakfast? And so we said, because we love eating together, we said, all right, it's a Sunday morning. We don't normally do the mornings. Let's all come in our PJs. Meryl, being the quintessential mom, the cautious one, had to get up and explain what acceptable PJs are. Because in a community like ours, that is definitely a beached community, one did not know what one might get. And so it was an incredible opportunity for entrepreneurs. I sent Ty out. We were going to do a baptism, and it was the middle of summer, and the only little baby pool that he could find was about this deep. I think it had one roll, one of those little, and so we were baptizing a guy, Ty, about six foot, I think. And I thought, Ty, how are you going to get this guy underwater? This is going to be an extraordinary moment. So there we were on the tarmac of a shared workspace in Santa Ana, trying to get a 6-foot man wet, baptized in this amount of water. But somehow we did it. And then COVID hit. And our online presence was extremely poor. And so the question was, could we survive without all the external? We didn't have a great online presence, and we laugh about that today because it was laughable. People in our community said, we don't actually watch our own podcast. We would rather go to John Tyson or Mark Sayers or John Mark Comer or kind of anyone else but ours. I remember sitting with Ty, and we watched the YouTube feed, and the moment someone logged on, we started. I think it was my mother. I think she was the only one who would ever. And so then we said, hi, everyone. Great to see all of you. And there's one person watching. It was really embarrassing and super awkward. And I remember Dana and Stu had a fight before. And then the time was, we got to start. Hi, I hate the person next to me. Hallelujah. Jesus is so wonderful. Such earthy, real moments of community life. Could we survive it? Are we tough and tenacious enough to do it? And then Dick's parking lot. We got the opportunity to be in a parking lot. And the question we had to answer then, was our gathering more important than our comfort? And I do think of it with a measure of horror, because we had no way in which we could contain the little toddlers running around. Here was the parking lot, corner of Newport and 20-something or other. And the kids were just running around, and it was getting dark. But could we overcome the lack of comfort, the lack of security, the lack of all the trappings that make for a good American church? And could we do church on the back of a pickup? And then we did Lighthouse Church. And although it really wasn't a space that we could identify with, nor really do what we like doing, it kind of helped us to define and decide, what is our DNA really? What are the things that matter to us? And could we do it in spite of not being in a space that really reflected us? And then, of course, here, creating a new normal with a clearer identity, with the table, with Jesus front and center. So if you are new and you're wondering why we do this, it's not just because some people are artistic. For 1,500 years, the church had the table front and center, architecturally. It was only with the reformers where they took the table out, call it Mass, and I know all of that wasn't good, but they took the table out and replaced it with the pulpit. And so for the last 500 years, we've had the pulpit architecturally centered to all church design. Stages are important to lift the band and the preacher rather than, and I'm not saying that critically, I'm just saying it by observation, this. And so that's why we have everyone looking at each other. It's super awkward. You look up and you see someone staring at you or not, with their hands raised or not, or I saw a couple of scowls here this evening or not. It's super embarrassing. But the objective of the exercise is to put Jesus front and center and make Him the object of our affection, the person of our worship. Magnify Him, the great, majestic, eternal, mysterious, and miracle-working one. The art of creating a future, it's a more fun way of saying we really are called to be a prophetic people. Now, many of you would not really understand that kind of language. I know that. But you know the first time you walked into a coffee shop and you did not know what a frappuccino was, cappuccino was. You did not know that. But your love for it drove you to actually accept it and learn what your jam is. Decaffeinated oat milk latte. That's my go-to thing. And I know I'm not supposed to drink oat milk. It's super uncool. But give me one luxury in life. One little palatable luxury is my great delight. But a prophetic people, and we're going to explore all these, I'm just going to run through them quickly, really includes people who are God listeners. God is intimate and He speaks, and we want to be those who are clearly attuned to the whispers of heaven, that they are loud as a shout, that we are God speakers, we are truth tellers. That's a very difficult part of being a prophetic people. Think of John the Baptizer, who went to Herod the king. It's a bit like going to Trump or Biden. What you're doing is not right. Herod, you're not allowed to marry, according to the law, Leviticus, you're not allowed to marry your brother's wife. He knew by doing that he would die. But if prophetic people own truth as a higher virtue or value even than life itself, we are God obeyers, and forgive me for making up words, I love having fun. He speaks, we do. Not He speaks and we listen, He speaks and we do. Jesus said this, teaching them to obey everything I have commanded you to do. Not some things, not an option, not a smorgasbord, I'll have a little bit of that, and a little bit of that, a little bit of that. No, teaching them to obey everything that I have said. You know, the unhappiest Christian is the non-obeying one. The one who chooses to cherry pick which part of Jesus' teachings they want to obey. We want to obey, because I put myself in that category from time to time. God empowers the gifts, miracles, signs, wonders, prophecy, flowing, because the supernatural God is with Him. God representatives, their justice role, big about justice for sure. God culture, living an alternative lifestyle. And then the God future, creating a picture of the future. Now, I'm saying all of that rapidly because we want to unpack that over the next period of time, because it is time for us to move. I said to Meryl about 6 months ago, I said, babe, our time at the greenhouse is done. She said, where are we moving? I said, I don't know. She said, but it's such a cool place. Everyone walks in and says, oh, wow, this is amazing. And it is. And we can rave about it because it's not ours. And John and Chrissy have done a fabulous job. I walked in when it was a UFC gym, black and purple. And what she has done here is nothing short of amazing. Never mind, they're leasing the place next door, and it's a youth center that they're building out. Amazing, amazing. Why would we want to move? There's 2 reasons. 1, because we feel the nudgings of God afoot. 2, because we really do want to step into a morning space. I love the chuckle of our littlies. I love the little toddlers running around here like crazy. It's a little disruptive, but I'll take it. We're family. But what I do miss, the elementary school kids. I do miss the junior hires. You know the junior hires, you know what it's like to be that 12, 13, 14-year-old? You know what that's all about? It's awkward. Have you seen the 14-year-old boy who's grown, tall, and his feet are long, and he thinks he's cool? I mean, you haven't seen them? Am I the only one? I love that. It's that phase of awkwardness and uncertainty and vulnerability. Am I cool? Aren't I cool? It's a beautiful time, and I love a community that's holy and sacred, whereby people could come and be safe with their doubts and their vulnerabilities and their uncertainties. And so we're looking to move. There's a possibility, we're in conversation, to move into Mariners Christian School, which will be a big change for us. Now, don't think school hall, think theater. Very different for us. But then again, when you look at where we've been in a lot of different, haven't we? But our true strength, dear friends, is built around the dining room table. Our dinner parties are the true story of our health and spiritual wealth. Doing life around the table. I love these. And if you're a visitor today, welcome. This is kind of a family chat moment, really. But I do. I love the corporate worship. I love the prayers, and I love the scripture being presented. But I enjoy our dinner parties more. There's so much honesty, vulnerability, transparency that happens over a meal where we just allow the world, that world, to see us for who we really are. No pretense, no hiding, no kind of put on your Christian posture, just a bunch of very ordinary, real people who are doing life together. And then I invited, because the time is so important, so vulnerable for us, I invited 12 people onto a prophetic group chat. And I just said, I really do need to hear what you are hearing. And David Vespella sent me these two scriptures. Isaiah 43, 19 to 21. See, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it? I'm making a way in the wilderness, streams in the wasteland. The wild animals honor me, the jackals, the owls, because I provide water in the wilderness. So there's a little promise. There's going to be some uncertainty, some change. And streams in the wasteland to give drink to my people, my chosen, the people I formed for myself, that they may proclaim my praise. And then David sent this one. Now remember the story of the people moving from captivity. Approximately 2 million, we think. There were 600 men. Throw in the number of wives, kids, the extended family. Think of foreigners who were there. Never mind the animals. Imagine trying to mobilize that large a crew, the size of a city, 2 million people. And on that day, the tabernacle, the tent, the covenant law was set up. The crowd covered it. From evening till morning, the cloud above the tabernacle looked like fire. That is how it continued to be. The cloud covered it, and at night it looked like fire. There we go. Whenever the cloud lifted from above the tent, the Israelites set out. Whenever the cloud settled, the Israelites encamped. At the Lord's command, the Israelites set out, and at his command they encamped. As long as the cloud stayed over the tabernacle, they remained in camp. Now, use your historical imagination with me if you can. Think about it for a moment. 2 million people encamped. That is a massive camp. 2 million people needing water, 2 million people needing food, 2 million people having who knows how many animals. Now, can you imagine a mum who wakes up in the morning and she gets up, checks that all little kiddos are around and everyone's happy, and she steps out and she sees the cloud begin to move and her heart sinks. Because what's about to happen, this is the 40th time. Jacob, the cloud. And he lifts his head. I know. Kiddos. The cloud. Well, by now, the 8 kids have got the thing down tacked. Everyone knows what their job is as they pull the stakes out of the ground, rolled up the ropes, fold the canvas down, the pots, the pans, make sure that the fires are out, make sure, have you got all the donkeys? What about the camels? Have we got them? The goats? I told you to count the goats last night. You can't go running around now looking for the 3 lost ones because the cloud's moving and we have to go. And remember, we're in a tribe. We got to move with all the other people. What am I trying to do? Create for you, I think, the horror and the challenge and the exhaustion of a people on the move. And ladies and gentlemen, a community that says yes to the cloud and the pillar of fire is not always an easy story. We look up and it's like, okay, it's time. God is on the move. I was listening to a podcast this week. Brené Brown was interviewing Mike Irwin. Mike was a Special Forces and left that, started a company, Red, White, and Blue. It's basically to empower leaders. He wrote a book called Leadership is Relationship. And the story came out as they were chitter-chattering away. They were doing a combined event for vets, especially for vets who'd lost limbs. And they were doing a 5K run to raise money for some of their initiatives. And so as they were doing it, she heard that there was a 5K run, and so she went to Mike and she said, because she was sharing the instructional time, she said, "You want me to run, don't you?" And he's like, "Well, Brené, it's up to you." And she said, no, you want me. Now, those of you who know Brené Brown know how hilarious she is. And basically, she accepted that she was going to do the 5K. And he said, "Listen, there are amputees, double amputees, who are going to be walking. You don't have to run with the rest of us." Now, the 8 in her, the Houston, the Texas, I think she's an A&M fan or whatever it is. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I'm going to run this thing. No, we can cycle around and fetch you. And there was this banter between them. And as they were running together, her doing her 5K, she's a little chunky, so it cost her. He used the phrase, and he said, "Embrace the suck." Embrace the suck. Because for you to finish this race, you're going to have to embrace the suck. And I was kind of laughing and chuckling through it. So I went online. I thought, let me get a picture that is embracing the suck. But then I saw the picture of Catherine Switzer. Who knows what that picture's about? Okay? I see 2 hands on the side. I see 1 hand on the side. 1967, what happened? She was the first woman to sign up for the Boston Marathon. Now, surely everyone stood on the sideline applauding her. Surely everyone was so excited that she was breaking the ceiling, she was breaking the glass ceiling, and would now create an opportunity for thousands and thousands of women every year to run the marathon. Well, that's absolutely not what happened, because that man came out of the crowd and attacked her, saying, "You're a woman, you should not be here, you should be at home. This is what men do." Embrace the suck. When we are called by God to do things, sometimes it's not the easiest thing to do. It may be incredibly costly. In fact, the people of Israel, going back to them for just a moment. Are you still with me? You kind of tracking with me where I'm going here? In Numbers chapter 11, it said the rabble with them. People who are grumpy. You know those people? Are you one of those? You're just always grumpy. Doesn't matter what happens, you're grumpy. There's something to moan about. Oh, I know in our church we don't have any of those. It said they began to crave other food. Here they are in the wilderness. Every morning there's manna. God's taking care of them. And again the Israelites started wailing. The rabble influenced the rest. And said, I have to laugh when I read this. If only we had meat to eat. That's legitimate. We remember, they say, the fish we ate in Egypt at no cost. Now, they were slaves. The food was cut. They were not inebriated. Thank you. That's the one I was looking for. But they suddenly remember the incredible fish they used to eat for free, and the cucumbers, melons, leeks, and onions. But now we've lost the appetite. We're not eating this miracle stuff anymore. We want to go back to Egypt. Let's kick Moses out. I mean, it's hilarious, were it not true, that they were so angry that they forgot what the past really was. Now, ladies and gentlemen, for us, Genesis, as our community, what we are looking for as God begins to unsettle us and ready for our next is what Emile Durkheim calls the collective effervescence. There's Duke's collective effervescence. What Emile Durkheim did in 1912 was he studied Aboriginals. And Aboriginals were free game for the Australians to shoot. If you saw an Aboriginal, you could kill them legally. The law of the land allowed for it. And so he went there as one of the fathers of sociology, and he studied them, and he wondered, in spite of them being, game, animals to be shot, Why was there a buoyancy within the Aboriginal community? And this was his conclusion. Collective effervescence is the intense energy and emotional excitement that people feel when what happens? When people come together in a group around a shared purpose, especially during rituals, celebrations, and religious ceremonies. Ladies and gentlemen, we are at our most vulnerable when we are stretched out, when the Spirit of God is beginning to move amongst us. We're all are. I had a dreadful week last week. Honestly, I felt like the enemy came at me. The verse that kept running through my mind, the enemy comes in like a flood. The enemy comes in like a flood. You name it, it happened to me or around me. And as a man, I'm thinking, what is this? I'm normally buoyant, positive. I'm an optimist. I'm an 8 on the Enneagram. This is easy for me, but it wasn't. Because it wasn't just an external sociological moment. This is the enemy coming in hard. The enemy came in like a flood. But the rest of the verse says, but the battle belongs to the Lord. And in times like this, when we are being scattered as we are mobilized, we need a collective effervescence. We need that sense of being as a group together, a shared purpose, and the ritual celebrations and religious ceremonies hold us together, to quote him. Now, Daniel chapter 10. We are going to spend as long as we need to over the next weeks by just exploring that chapter. I was going to have Jordan read it, but I forgot to ask him. It's too late now. So he can read it next week. But I want to just take some time, categorize it around 5 pieces, and don't worry, we're not going to do it tonight. But 5 things that I think will both prepare us for the next and ready us as a prophetic people. And the 5 things are the appointed time, and I'll touch on that quickly then we'll come to the table. A people in exile. What is it like to be the people of God in exile? The evolution of the prophet, the implication of prayer, and the story behind the story. How does that sound? So this evening is really just framing what the rest of the summer will look like. But now I want to dive in, not for a long while. I've been going 26 minutes, so we're okay. I'm going to read just a little passage from Daniel. Are you good with that? In the 3rd year of Cyrus, king of Persia. So what have I tried to do? Simply lay the platform, set the stage for what we're going to open up and explore for the rest or a chunk of the summer. In the 3rd year of Cyrus, king of Persia, the revelation was given to Daniel, who was called Belshazzar. Its message was true. It concerned a great war. The understanding of the message came to him in a vision. At that time, which time? At the appointed time, I, Daniel, mourned for 3 weeks. I ate no choice food, no meat or wine touched my lips, and I used no lotions at all until the 3 weeks were over. And then the rest of the book we're going to unpack. But tonight I just want to meander for the last 6-7 minutes around the idea of the appointed time. Does that sound okay to you? You with me? Okay. Thank you for being patient. I know it's not kind of a normal talk. It's more just laying the stage. I have such a fatherly weight on me. I said to Meryl, we've led through many changes. This is the 3rd church we're leading in 42 years. And yet somehow there is a particular weight on me for this next window of time. I don't know why. I don't know if God's trying to warn me. I don't know if God's trying to simply prepare us. God's trying to create a collective effervescence. I don't really know. But there's something particularly sweet that's on his heart for us. So that passage, the 3rd year of Cyrus. So what do we know? Daniel is 84 now. He went to the king's court, to Nebuchadnezzar's court as a 16-year-old. He has been in exile a very long time. The message was true, the message he got, but the appointed time was long. God, it took so long. Doesn't it feel familiar? You said this thing, Lord, but it's taken so long for it to actually happen. And he understood the message and had understanding of the vision. I want to take just a moment or two around the appointed time. One of the theological conundrums is between a God who is sovereign and a God who is providential. Now, those are big words like peanut butter, but let me explain them quickly. God is sovereign. Sovereign meaning God is over all things. God is over all things. From the beginning, in the beginning God created, the artist God started it all out. In the end, God will kindly, we know He will gather us to Himself, and there'll be the great marriage supper of the Lamb. And in between is this vertebra of God's divine purpose. Now, below the vertebra, we mess up, of course. We lie, we cheat, we commit murder, we are dishonest, whatever. And so that's where providence comes in. Providence is the action part of God. Now, it's important for us to understand this. This is where God's action plan sets in. He redoes all the things that we err in. He reworks that. You know, the appointed time means that you can miss it. Where God has a plan, a moment for us individually or for us in our togetherness. And we can miss it. And sometimes we think, well, it doesn't really matter. My brother at the age of 18 came forward one night when I was preaching. And he knelt before me with other people who wanted to commit their lives to Christ. And he was in tears, and I grabbed his head and I pulled it into my chest. Love him, 5 years younger than I am. And he walked out the door and ran for 20 years. Adultery, professional rugby player, buff, party animal, drank too much. You name it. For 20 years he ran. 20 years my heart broke. 20 years we tried to patch up his marriage, which by God's grace his wife forgave him, and it's public. I'm not breaching confidences. But I'll never forget the happy, sad moment when I picked up my phone when we were living in Diamond Bar, and he said, "Hey, But, it's Hendon here." Now, I recognize his voice anywhere. And he said two things to me. He said, "I'm back, and I've lost 20 years. And he said, God can't give me those 20 years back." And you know what? He's absolutely right. 20 lost years. That moment, as a young kid, when he said, "Jesus, I want you as my Lord and Savior," and then set off running. 20 wasted years. Now, I don't say that to create fear in your heart, but there is this deep, sober moment of, oh God, please don't let me miss the appointed time. The people of Israel did. Jeremiah prophesied 70 years. They said, oh, heck no, we're not going back. And so they ended up being in exile for 460 years, 70 times 7. It's a moment of deep quiet. It requires us to hear the sweet whispers of God. So when God speaks, we're up. We got it. Jacob, the cloud's moving. I got it, honey. Esau, make sure we got the pegs out the ground. Don't forget those straps. I told you last time, remember. Hey, has everyone counted the goats? It's time to move. Oh, Mom, really? Do we have to move again? Yep, the cloud's moving, people. It's a beautiful moment that keeps reminding us of the sweetness. When God moves, we move with Him. Why? Because we don't always understand why He's moving, do we? I was telling the church this morning how difficult it was moving here to America for me. And it kind of came back rushing at me. I remember in my house in Diamond Bar, and I had a study upstairs, and I would literally be on my knees crying, God, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be here. I don't want to be here. But when I realized why, when I realized how God and why God wanted us here, and it took some time, this overwhelm, oh God, thank you for not listening to my wailing. Thank you for not listening to my complaint and my pain. Thank you. Sitting here tonight is part of a family that's very dear to our hearts who are with us in the Southlands Church. And when I think of why did we come to turn Southlands around, a broken Pentecostal church, spent 14 years doing it, the deep love in our heart for that church that grew and continues to be true was when I said, Lord, I don't know why you have us here, until we met them. The reason were people, Priscilla, Kenzie, Camille. The reason had names, they were people. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. The sons of Issachar understood the times and knew what Israel had to do. All right. I've spoken too much and it's been way too serious tonight. I apologize, but I'm going to land with this. There's a fabulous chapter in Luke's writings. Luke was the doctor. We think he was commissioned by Theophilus to go and write the Jesus account. So he wrote the one biography of Jesus, and then he wrote the account of the early church. And in his account of the biography of Jesus, in the 15th chapter, he speaks of 3 groups of lostness. And this is where I want to land tonight. As we move, who will be the mama and the papa who will look out and say, has anyone got the baby? Oh, look at our teenager on their phone again. Can someone just make sure that they know the cloud's moving and they've got to come and roll up their bed? Because Jesus said, I need you to look after the lost sheep. I need you, he said in Luke 15, I need you to leave the 99 healthy ones, and I need you to go and find out who has drifted, whose head has been on the ground, feeding and foraging, not knowing that everyone else is doing it over there, and they are foraging, and suddenly they look up. I remember being on patrol when we were in the army in Angola, and we walked through a desert forest that you suddenly blinded, you can't see. So you're walking in a desert, it's wide open spaces, and then suddenly you're in a forest, and that moment of panic, I'm by myself. You stop and you say, can I hear them? Can I hear my buddies? Are they still there? And Jesus said, who will go after the drifter and draw them back? Leave the 99 healthy ones, go and fetch. Are you a drifter? Has your spiritual life just taken on a very boring, mediocre meandering, and you're just drifting? Well, maybe tonight's the night that God just gently, lovingly says, I found you. Come on, come back. The 99 other ones, I'm going to put you over my shoulders just like the artist's sketch. I'm taking you home. Or the lost coin, just tucked away, just stuck in being tucked away. Life's challenge, life's hard. I haven't got time for these spiritual things. I'm just tucked away. I'm stuck where I'm at. And as I was praying for this evening, just thought, God, who will be that person or persons who are just stuck? And then thirdly, of course, the well-known story of the lost sons. The one we tell so often is of the rebel coming home, who took his part of the inheritance and headed off for a foreign country and spent it all on prostitutes and wine, woman, and song. Suddenly realizes what he's done, that he's actually eating the food given to the pigs. And he says, even in my father's house, the servants eat better than I. And we love the story where the dad is sitting on the porch and he's having his whiskey in the sundown. And suddenly there is a seeming haze of someone stepping through the twilight, and he starts walking up the roadway, the pathway up to the house, and his father thinks to himself, is that it? Is that my boy? Could that possibly be the one? As he decided to turn, and the father stands up a little bit, not wanting to give his heart away, not wanting to ponder on whether this could possibly be the one who broke his heart all those years ago. And this time it's not a tall young man full of arrogance, pride, and wealth in his pocket. It's a stoop bent over a man of defeat and weakness. And he realizes it's his boy. And he starts running. He puts his whiskey glass down and he starts dashing out after his boy. And the closer he is, the more he realizes it's him, and he starts calling out his name. And we love telling that story, and it's a beautiful story, and it's a true story, because at least by parable standards, and he gets the shoes on the feet and the cloak and the ring. But tucked away is the other brother, who looks at all the attention given to the one who's come home, and he says, I won't come and eat the lamb. Because Pop's forgotten. Has Pop's forgotten that he spent all the money and just there's nothing to show for it but a bruised ego and a broken life? You see, I don't really know how you rebelled or I rebelled, whether it was overt and public or inward, but as real. These are vulnerable times, and it's so important for us to look after those who are drifting, those who are stuck, those who are rebelling. We had an elders, I'm landing, 39 minutes, not too bad. We had an elders prayer time in the park next to my house on Thursday morning. And we were praying, and honestly, my mind went to those who were with us in the early days, who probably fit into the third category. Nah, I'm not into this Jesus stuff anymore. And whenever we have a special moment, those who know I wear this jacket because it was given to me by one of the young clothes designers in the church right in those early days. It takes me back to my roots. It remembers what it was like around my dining room table when we all sat together. We squeezed in everywhere and we hung out and we laughed because that's how we started. But I want to invite you this evening to do two things. On your chair are little white cards. And I'd love you to write the name of someone down, whether they're here or somewhere else. Not their last name, just an initial. So in my case, it would be Chris W. Someone that you would love to see come back into a vital walk with Jesus. Just love him again in all elegant simplicity. And re-engage with community. Not church, I go to church. What is that? No, I'm in community. I'm doing life with other people. Falling in love with Jesus again. Falling in love with the beauty and the wonder of his holy community. And then I'd love you to leave them on your chair. And we're going to pick them up afterwards. And as an eldership team and a staff team, we're going to pray for those people by name. We don't know who they are. We don't know who wrote them. We're not asking you to put any information on. But they could be the one who drifted. They could be the one who is stuck. They could be the one who rebelled. It doesn't matter. We so dearly want to pray for them. On the night that he was betrayed, the Lord Jesus took bread. And we want to come around communion tonight, the precious, wonderful body of our Lord Jesus Christ and the blood. And we want to celebrate those lives. Those who have drifted, those who are stuck, and those who have rebelled and their journey back to Jesus.
Thank you for listening to the Genesis Costa Mesa podcast. To find more information about our community, feel free to visit our website, www.genesiscostamesa.com, or find us on social media @Genesis Costa Mesa.